Dragonflight announced a brand new race, the Dracthyr, that is only able to play one class, and that is the also just newly introduced evokers. Despite the initial crazy expansion hype, now that the dust has settled down a bit, it turns out that quite a large part of the community is quite critical of the new features. In fact, around 70% of polls, people say they either dislike them or that they would prefer if the Dracthyr were altered in some ways. Main complaints are everything from their looks, to them being locked out to just one class, and even their actual backstory. So why is it that people are not really the biggest fans of the Dracthyr evokers? Are you looking for cheap software like Windows 11 for the best price on the market? Well, Royal City Keys is your best option. Other than software, you can find a bunch of games at amazing prices, and if you use my code DORON, you will get an additional 10% off. So if you want to support the channel and get something for yourself, check out my link in the description or the QR code on the screen. What is important to note is that the Dracthyr are a completely brand new concept, and I gotta say, personally I'm kinda 50-50 on them. As you have probably already heard, they were built directly by Deathwing before he went crazy in order to battle the Primalists, the supporters of Galakrond, and they were really important as Neltharion the Earthwarder, before he felt corruption, literally crafted an entire zone just to train them. This ties in with later Black Dragonflight experiments that more than likely use this as their source for inspiration, as the Dracthyr are really one-of-a-kind race. Now, Neltharion combine the powers of all the Dragonflights and the magnificence and intelligence of dragons with the adaptability and the scrappiness of mortals. While this is cool and all, people don't really seem to be buying this story, and overall sentiment seems to be either neutral or kinda mildly unhappy. Generally, people are not completely hating this concept, but I'd say the best words to describe this would be slightly underwhelmed. While personally, I'd like to not spread much criticism, as the expansion is not even out yet, we don't even know the entire features, and there seems to be a lot of potential. It isn't really a bad thing to provide criticism, as there is still a lot of room left for them to be changed and altered, maybe even just a bit, so that the public opinion of them increases. In fact, a lot of users started creating their own edits of the race that personally, I gotta say, makes me go from like, oh, it's cool I guess, to damn, I can't wait to actually play the Dracthyr. So at the moment, the criticism seems to be spread into three categories. The looks, this one is by far the most widely discussed. Then the specs, a lot of people seem to be unhappy with only 2 specs and only 1 class being available to this race. And lastly, the lore, which I gotta say, not many people are talking about, but they seem to be making quite a few pretty good points. Let's really briefly look at the story side of the Dracthyr. As while there are some cool aspects, there are also quite a few concerns. By our current understanding, this race was created with the only purpose of battling the Primalists. The Primalists are the followers of Galakrond, and those that don't think the Titans should really use the dragons as assets and protectors, but more like, we dragons are big, we dragons are strong, and we should rule the entire planet instead. So they don't really like the Dragon Order the way it was set up by the Titans at the time. So you would think if Neltharion wanted to battle aggressive primal dragons, he would create even bigger dragons and more powerful ones, yet he decided to make really tiny ones that are like half the size of actual dragonids. In Blizzard's own words, they wanted to combine the magnificence of the dragons and their intellect together with the scrappiness of the mortals. They use this exact word, scrappiness, which, if you don't know, means combativeness, militance, and really I'd say they're talking more about how mortals have a really strong mind and they're adaptable and flexible. However, what doesn't make much sense is that we are talking about actual dragons here. Do they really need the aggressiveness of the mortals? I mean, come on, dragons are gigantic, flame-breathing destruction machines that can fly, transform, they have sharp claws and teeth. I'd say they outdo any mortal race on pretty much any front. However, I do have kind of a good counter-arguments for this. I know it is a bit ridiculous that Neltharion would create this tiny race to battle the Primalists, but maybe the explanation here is that they were building dragons in order to battle dragons. All dragons are fierce and powerful, and seeing that they know themselves, they also know how to defend from other dragons. So this might have actually been a high IQ move by Neltharion, as he would create a really flexible race that would be completely unpredictable, and the Primalists wouldn't really know how to defend themselves. Now, that is of course going to be explained explained as we get into the expansion itself, but let us now focus on the main point of this video, the main topic, the biggest concern people have, and that is the actual visual representation of the Dracthyr. Personally, I gotta say, I agree with a lot of these criticisms as people really made some edits, and these minor edits made the Dracthyr a lot more appealing than what we currently have. How can I put this simply? People think the Dracthyr just look wimpy and just way too slender. In fact, a lot of people say they look like snake lizard people as opposed to Draconid. In fact, they have often been just called Sauroch with wings, and I gotta say, there definitely seems to be quite a bit of resemblance. The thing is, maybe Blizzard didn't have to come up with the Dracthyr, as we already had the Draconid for a really long time in World of Warcraft, pretty much since Classic, and they are everything you would expect from a humanoid dragon. Massive, bulky, armored, wielding a gigantic weapon that barely any mortal would be able to use. On the other hand, the Dracthyr really seem like lizard people that happen to have a few dragon features, and to a lot of people this doesn't really feel like playing a true dragon. Dragons in World of Warcraft have always been huge, powerful, bulky, and just overall a powerhouse. So you would imagine a combination of them with the mortals would lean more towards that size, that mightiness. So some suggestion people have made is that they should change a few of their visual features. For example, they should make their shoulders a bit bigger, make their jaws a bit more aggressive, more Deathwing-like, make their wings more sinister, and really something that you would be in awe when you see it, as at the moment the demon hunters seem to have more scary wings than the actual dragon mortals. Then some other changes would be making their necks smaller, which would lose that lizard, snake-like look, and also make their chest a bit bigger, giving them that bulk, while also increasing their hands and feet and making their tail dragon-worthy. Personally, I agree with all of these changes. I don't think they have to go turning them into the Draconid, but if you see this artwork seriously, all of these are just minor changes, one that could very easily be implemented, and they would make an insane difference to their overall aesthetic appeal. They wouldn't have to change the animations, the rigs, or really make any significant changes to the model itself, while they could make some really good improvements. Now, the second visual criticism is their humanoid form, and I 100% agree with this. For some reason, the Dracthyr only have two humanoid forms, one for the males and the females. So for the males, it is literally just a blood elf model, and for the females, it is the human female, and yeah, that is pretty much it. The thing is though, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever from a lore perspective. I know they're not actually blood elves or humans at all, they're just a mix of mortals, but let's be real, they're just using a reskin model of these two races with a few dragon-like customizations. From the lore side, them being these two races really makes no sense, as the humans evolved from the Vrykul and the blood elves from the night elves, and most of this happened after the dragon elves were locked away, so why would the humanoid form look like the high elves that literally didn't even exist at that point? In order to fix this, I see two solutions. The best really and the most unlikely, unfortunately, is that really they should just get their own model. I don't see why this would be that much of an issue outside of being resource intensive and costly. These Dracthyr are supposed to be like a mix of a bunch of mortal races, so they should look completely unique, unlike any other race we had ever seen. They could maybe combine trolls and Vrykul or some of the other native races. I know they're kind of going with the Worgen and the Demon Hunter thing with these two forms, and the thing is, these two scenarios made complete sense in their own storyline. The Worgen were literally just corrupted Gilnean humans, and the Demon Hunters were literally night elves and blood elves that decided to search for Lyrden, so they are that actual race. However, it doesn't make any sense why the blood elves or the humans would have anything to do with the Dracthyr. Now, the second solution is that they could add more customizations. People suggested orcs and something similar, and I don't really think that is a good idea, as these races just recently arrived to Azeroth. However, if they wanted to be more accurate to the lore, they should give customization to the original races native to the planet, such as the trolls or the Tauren. So they wouldn't have to make customization option for all the playable races, but only the oldest ones, and not only would that make the Dracthyr a lot more interesting from a customization perspective, but overall it would make a lot more sense lore-wise. Now, the last and the final criticism people have is mainly on the gameplay side, and that is in fact that they can only be one class, and that is the evokers. And even bigger criticism is that these evokers can only be Dracthyr. I know Blizzard is purposefully doing this in order to make this a really limited and unique feature of the new expansion so that people get the new expansion, but I really don't see why they couldn't at least add a few other classes, the more basic ones such as the warriors. Additionally, people don't like that there are only two specs and that a DPS spec is used using red life Dragonflight power. I do kinda agree to this extent, as realistically there should be more versatility, but I can see how Blizzard is trying to make this sort of a very limited and unique thing with one class, one race. I'd say out of all of this isn't all that important, and in my opinion, I really wish that they just updated the Dracthyr visuals so that we really feel like we are a part of the mighty black Dragonflight. Thank you for watching. Check out Will Dracthyr Lead Dracthyr by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.